Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to jump into two of the most famous stories about Jesus. They're found right next to each other in the Gospel of John, and we're going to see how they hide a single, incredibly powerful message. All right, so let's get right into it. A wedding party? A temple riot? I mean, on the surface, you couldn't find two more different scenes, right? One is all about celebration and this amazing, generous miracle. The other is just this intense, fiery confrontation. But they're put together for a reason, and it's up to us to figure out why. So, our first scene takes us to a wedding in a little town called Cana. It's supposed to be a happy occasion, but this party is about to hit a major snag. A real social disaster, actually. You know, to really feel the tension here, you gotta understand the culture. Hospitality was everything. A wedding could go on for a whole week, so running out of wine wasn't just awkward, it was a deep, public shame for the family. And look what's on hand, these massive stone jars, specifically used for Jewish ritual washing, which was a huge part of their religious life. So when the wine runs out, Jesus tells the servants to fill those 6 purification jars with water, all the way to the top. And the result? We're talking more than 150 gallons of the best wine you can imagine. This isn't just fixing the problem. It's an act of shocking, over-the-top abundance. Now here's a super important detail. The text doesn't just call this a miracle. It uses a very specific Greek word, sῆμειον, which means a sign. And that's a huge distinction. A sign isn't just about the cool thing that happened, it's about what it points to. It's like a giant flashing arrow meant to tell you something really important about who Jesus is. And here's what that big arrow is pointing to. You have the water, which represents the old system of ritual purity. And that gets completely transformed into this insane amount of wine, a powerful symbol in their tradition for the joy and celebration of a whole new era. The sign is clear. The old way is being replaced by something brand new and full of life. And the text tells us this is the first of his signs. It reveals his glory, his true identity. And for his disciples, this is it. This is the moment they start to truly put their faith in him. The sign did its job perfectly. All right, now hold that thought, because the mood is about to do a complete 180. We're leaving the village party and heading straight to the center of Jewish religious life, the Jerusalem temple, right in the middle of the huge Passover festival. So Jesus walks into this huge sacred space, a place that was meant to be for prayer. But what does he find? It's basically a chaotic marketplace. It's loud, it's messy, full of money changers and animal sellers. The whole purpose of the space has been corrupted. He grabs some cords, makes a whip, and just drives them all out. Now, it's easy to see this as just a guy losing his temper, but it's way more than that. This is a deliberate, prophetic action. And his disciples immediately get it. They see it as a prophecy coming to life, a righteous passion for God's house. So of course, the religious leaders show up and they're like, "Who do you think you are? What gives you the right?" And his answer is just shocking. "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days, I will raise it up." I mean, they must have thought he was absolutely insane. And this is so clever, because the whole misunderstanding comes down to 2 different Greek words for temple. The crowd heard the word hieron, which means the entire compound, all the buildings and courts. But the author says Jesus used a different word, naos, which means the sacred inner sanctuary, the holiest place of all, where God's presence was meant to be. And then the author just spells it out for us, gives us the key. This was another sῆμειον, another sign, the true naos, the real dwelling place of God that would be torn down and raised in 3 days, wasn't the building. It was his own body. So now we can finally connect the dots. That joyful wedding and that violent riot, they aren't opposites at all. They are 2 acts in the same play, telling the exact same story. They reveal this incredibly clear pattern. It all comes down to one powerful idea: replacement. You see the pattern, right? At the wedding, the water for the old rituals is replaced by the wine of a new age. And at the temple, the physical stone building is being replaced by a new place to meet God, Jesus' own body. I mean, think about how radical this is. He's not just showing up to reform the system or clean things up. These 2 signs are a declaration that he is the new system. He's the new source of spiritual life, the new center of worship, the whole shebang. But wait, there's one last twist. The chapter doesn't just end there. It adds this really crucial warning. Because after all this, a lot of people in Jerusalem saw the signs and believed in him. But their belief, it turns out, wasn't quite what it seemed. And again, it all comes down to this one Greek word, pisto. It has a double meaning. It can mean you believe a fact is true, like, I believe that happened. But it can also mean something way deeper, to completely entrust yourself to a person, to rely on them with everything you have. And that's the huge difference here. The crowds in Jerusalem had what you could call sign faith. They were impressed by the spectacle, by the power. It was all about what Jesus could do. But the disciples, starting back at that wedding, theirs was the beginning of a relational trust. It was about trusting who Jesus is. And here's the knockout punch. Using that very same word, the text says the crowds believed in him, but Jesus did not entrust himself to them. Why? Because he knew their faith was only skin deep, based on the fireworks and not on a real trust in him. So this whole chapter leaves us with this powerful question that just kind of hangs in the air. A question for us, really. Are we more fascinated by the signs themselves? The spectacle, the power, the benefits? Or are we truly seeking to know and trust the person all the signs are pointing to?